Now we're going to take a look at how we can use lists to create wonderful navigation interface elements for our documents. So essentially in the past, the way that we would create navigation would either be using complex table layouts or other markup like paragraph tags with links in them followed by breaks to give the illusion of what is essentially a list of links. However, now we have CSS to enable us to modify the markup, the default styling of browsers in such a way that we can not only remove the markers such as bullets or numbers from lists, but also change their display. And as we work through the exercises in Chapter 8, you're going to see how we can begin to build fantastic-looking navigation out of lists and still retain the structured semantic markup that is describing the content within the document without ever ruining the integrity of that, yet ending up with these wonderful interactive results. So I'm in Chapter 8, Exercise Files, and we're in the second section of Chapter 8, Second Movie. So go ahead and open up those files in your favorite editor and what you've been working along with. And if you've got the snippets and you're working in Dreamweaver, fantastic. You can drag and drop along with me. If not, then you have the full source code and you can copy and paste from that into the editor of your choice. Let's give some breathing room here in the style element area. And the first thing I want to do is drop in some design here that's going to sort of set the framework for the navigation panel we're creating. Essentially, we've styled the H3 here. And if we take a look at this in our browser, then we can begin to see how the unordered list here falls below the header level 3 that is using the image replacement technique that we showed you in prior movie. Let's go ahead and go back into our text editor. And the next thing I want to do is I want to style the unordered list element itself. And here I'm giving it a margin of 0, and I'm giving it some padding to give it a little breathing space. And I am now adding a background image there to continue building the panel that we're creating. So let's go ahead and save that file, flip on over into Firefox or the browser of your choice. And as we can see now, we have the element image in the background, the H3, and the list all coming together to create what is starting to look like a very lovely navigation panel. Go back into our code, and let's go ahead and style the list items. Here we have a couple of options. When we want to style lists, the list style type property is very useful because we can, at this point, we've got what is known as the disk, right, which is usually the default in browsers, and it's the filled-in circle bullet that we're very familiar with. But we can also have a circle, which is an unfilled-in circle. We could have it be square. We can use a decimal, in other words, have a numeric value there. And a very important piece of working with lists is that we can set this style to none, which means that we can get rid of the bullets, they're out of the picture, and now we have that beautiful list of links that we want in an actual list instead of in markup such as paragraphs with breaks, which really has no meaning. A list of links has meaning, and when we're able to take those markers away or modify them in some way, we gain so much more control over what we're doing with the visual presentation of our site. So in this case, we have it set to disk currently. Go ahead and save this. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Go ahead and refresh. The padding that we have added has moved the list in a little bit, and as you can see here, the disk-styled bullets are still there. So you can flip back over to Dreamweaver, and I'm going to actually go ahead and use the none value. You'll notice here that this is grayed out, okay? We put these values in here so that you can see some of the values that are available that go along with list style type. However, we've put them in what's known as CSS comments, and that means that these things will not display. You can put things in comments that, to organize and locate, just as you would when you work with HTML, have HTML comments, but CSS comments work like this, okay? And now let's go ahead and take a look. Go over the browser, refresh, and voila. It's removed our markers, and here we now have a very nice vertical navigation panel, and you would never know that from looking at it that it's actually a structured, unordered list. If we turn off the styles, oops, let's go over here and kill the styles. Look at that. You have an unordered list, a list of links, which, let's say a person doesn't have CSS-enabled browser or has any kind of accessibility issues. This becomes very, very much more accessible to them and easy to understand. Many screen readers, for example, if you had a paragraph, let's say you put paragraph tag around a number of links using breaks as a way to get to the next line, the way a screen reader would read that is future health, life, money, personal phobias. That's what you would essentially hear. When it's in an unordered list or a list, you are going to hear the screen reader would say, list item 1, future, list item 2, health, list item 3, life, which gives an incredible context to people who can't necessarily see the visual representation that we're creating. So I think it's very important for designers to think a lot, not only about how these things are looking, but the integrity of that document underneath. Because not only do we address issues of accessibility, but let's say we want to send this document page to an alternative device, such as a telephone or something like that. That list is going to still have its fundamental structure and semantic integrity. And that is really something that we're after here. And one of the reasons that lists are so used these days in order to create great interface elements.